Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Assalamu alaikum, dear students. Our current session focuses on the background of community language learning method. Well, I hope and expect by the end of this session you would have some understanding of what community language learning method is. Community language learning, or CLL, is a method that was developed by Charles A. Curran and his associates. He was a specialist in counseling and a professor of psychology at Loyola University, Chicago. CLL represents the use of counseling learning theory to teach languages. As the name indicates, CLL derives its primary insights and its organizing rationale from Rogerian counseling tradition or theories. Well, when it comes to counseling, actually one person gives advice, assistance, and support to another who has a problem or is in some way in need of some help. CLL draws on the counseling metaphor, and actually it believes in providing help or support or advice or assistance to the learner. It redefines the roles of the teacher as the counselor and the role of the learners as the clients. And as far as the procedures are concerned, they are very much dependent upon the counselor-client relationships, where the teacher and the learner are related or associated with each other in terms of counselor and client, and they the purpose of the counselor is to give advice. The need of the client is to seek advice. The purpose of the counselor is to provide support, and the role of the learner is to seek support in the process of language learning. CLL techniques also belong to a larger set of foreign language teaching practices, sometimes described as humanistic techniques. Unlike the conservative, traditional structuralist models of language teaching, where the structure of language was considered to be more important, CLL focuses more on the humanistic aspects of it. Moskowitz defines humanistic techniques as those that would blend what the student feels, thinks, and knows with what he's learning in the target language. So, according to CLL, language learning, L2 learning, is not a mechanical, technical process of learning the dry rules of language. Rather, it has more to deal with the needs of the student, what the student thinks, feels, what the student knows about the language. Rather than self-denial being the acceptable way of life, self-actualization and self-esteem are the ideals the exercises in CLL pursue. So, the purpose of CLL is to enable the learners to rise up to the level where they have a kind of self-esteem and where, they are capable of finding their ways of learning language. In sum, humanistic techniques engage the whole person, and when we say the whole person, it means the feelings and the emotions, as well as the linguistic knowledge and the behavioral skills of the learner. Another language teaching tradition with which CLL is linked is a set of practices used in certain kinds of bilingual education programs, and that is to be referred by Mackey as language alternation. In language alternation, what happens? A message, lesson, or a class is presented first in the native language, and then there is an alternation. Then it is again presented in the second language. So, presentation of the materials first in L1, and then alternating it with second language presentation. Students know the meaning and flow of an L2 message from their recall of the parallel meaning and flow of L1 message. Now, this facilitates the learners in the sense that they already know the message, they already know the contents through L1, and they can draw a parallel with L1 when it is being produced or when it is being presented in L2. They begin to holistically piece together a view of the language out of these message sets. In CLL, a learner presents a message in L1 to the knower. The message is translated into L2 by the knower. And the knower here would be the teacher in this case. The learner then repeats the message in L2, addressing it to another learner with whom he or she wishes to communicate. So through this chain of the learner and the knower, the process of learning continue. CLL learners are encouraged to attend the overhears they experience between other learners and their knowers. And by listening to and by absorbing what is going on between other sets of learners and knowers that they are encouraged to listen to or to overhear, the learners in CLL would keep on adding to their knowledge of L2.